Hi, loves. Okay, so yeah, it's with a really heavy heart that I come on today. Didn't really want to be talking about such a heavy subject. My first video back after I took 2 weeks off. You'll know I had some health issues, which I won't go into right now. But so like. Okay, so before we start, let's just say a prayer. So calling on the highest light of Prime Creator, God Source, I ask you that you please assist us today in this intention to bring peace to the Holy Land, to all those that are hurting, to all those that are grieving, to all those that are scared, so to all those that are confused, to all those that are lost, and to all those that have hate in their hearts, vengeance, any kind of emotions like that. We ask that you hold us in your loving embrace as we move through any uncomfortable emotions that may be revealed by what we're about to discuss today, and that you remove all distortions, all inversions, and anything that is not you and that does not come from your truth, your love, and your plan for us and for the unfoldment of humanity. Okay. Thank you. Okay, so, and if I'm feeling up to it at the end of this, it's probably also good that we do a prayer as well. So I really wanted to do this video yesterday. I've been following the events that have been unfolding over the last couple of days. You all know I don't like jumping on these things straight away, because obviously things change, things evolve over time, people respond, people react. And I don't really like doing like multiple videos and, like comebacks and, things like that. I like to just talk about something and, maybe revisit it if it needs to be revisited, but then just move on and just like focus on solutions and how we can heal, like as a collective, as one race, the human race. I was just kind of following the events as they were unfolding, making lots and lots of notes. I made like probably about 7 hours worth of work in like notes I was making on Evernote. I always use Evernote for writing out like my captions that I'm using for Instagram or Facebook, and write them out there first. And Evernote, I've always been really happy with the app. It syncs automatically, it saves everything automatically. And syncs it across all your devices, and I'd revisited the notes several times, so it was there, it was saved, like it was like more than a page, like just paragraphs upon paragraphs of things that I wanted to say in the video today, or yesterday rather. And I just went to add to it another point that I wanted to make, and when I opened Evernote, the note was completely gone. It was completely disappeared. There was just a blank note. There was nothing there. Like there was no sign of it. I searched for it in the trash. And yeah, I felt like extremely fucking defeated after that. Like, like obviously I'm not, me being upset or feeling defeated is like nothing compared to what people in Gaza and in Israel right now, the families of the hostages or those who had their lives taken by Hamas are going through right now. Obviously not comparing the two, I'm grieving for that situation, so just want to clarify that. But yeah, if you're not aware of kind of archonic digital interference and how dark forces and demonics can kind of like interfere with our communications on these kind of digital platforms, then I encourage you to please like watch some interviews on YouTube with, if you haven't yourself experienced this or you're skeptical that this is a thing, watch some videos on YouTube where I've watched several videos where they interviewed pastors who perform exorcisms on people suffering like demonic possession, and there were several interviews where pastors shared or priests shared that demons can actually, and a demon is just any spiritual entity. It could be a fallen angel, or it could be any kind of like a ghost can also be a demon, like a person that used to be, like a person that's passed over could also become demonic. Demonic just means that you are not connected to the Most High, that you've lost your source connection. So fallen angels who broke their source connection ended up becoming like archdemons. So a demon is kind of an umbrella term for any kind of like entity that doesn't serve the law of one, and not all of them are really nefarious and evil. Some are just kind of benign, but they just have lost their source connection, so they're not Christed, they're not super benevolent. So they will testify to how demonics can interfere with technology, and how, you know, there was one that I was listening to specifically where they like would record or film a person experiencing demonic attack or possession, or things like poltergeists in the house and stuff like that, and they would film it, and they would have it on film and everything, have recorded like weird sounds or weird voices, or shown instances of clear demonic activity or evidence of demonic possession. And then when they came to view it or replay it, those parts of the video or the recording had been wiped. So it's a real thing, it happens. I was feeling super defeated when that happened. So instead of, you know, having like all the bullet points and the notes that I want to talk about the situation right now that's unfolding in the Middle East, I thought instead, you know, I wasn't able to film anything yesterday because I just was not in the right headspace. I'm still kind of feeling like very heavy today as well. So, you know, if my transmission doesn't come through like really clear and is a little bit all over the place, it's just because I'm feeling really like emotionally heightened after looking at everything and watching the events that are unfolding, as I'm sure many of y'all are as well. It's obviously like completely devastating situation that's unfolding that could escalate. So instead I thought today we could do a reaction video which I think is actually going to be better, because, you know, I think it's very dangerous, and I'm going to talk about this in the video, where people are giving their opinions based on things that they've seen, like, oh, we saw this and we saw that, and so has done that, the IDF has done that, Hamas has done that, I saw this video, I saw that video, because people are engaging in a lot of Chinese whispers, particularly like with atrocity propaganda, okay, because there are a lot of rumors that were circulating in the early days of things that Hamas have done. And firstly, I want to absolutely condemn the actions of Hamas. I'm fully like in agreement that Hamas is a terrorist organization. I do not believe that they represent the Palestinian people. I want to draw a clear delineation between the innocent people, the civilians of Palestine, of the Gaza Strip, the West Bank. Obviously this attack is on Gaza, so that's what we're going to discuss. A delineation between them and Hamas, okay? And we're going to talk about that and some of the history of Hamas as well. So yeah, absolutely condemning their actions, you know, killing innocent civilians, Israeli civilians, as they have done, and taking them hostage is an act of war. Not just an act of war, it's a war crime. It's, you know, completely illegal according to international laws of war, and it should be condemned, obviously. I know that the thing is, I don't think that people should necessarily have to like, oh, I'm calling on you to condemn that, you must condemn that. Like, that should definitely, it should be condemned, and I think that people should do it if you can, because right now it's clearly like not obvious that everybody condemns that. And I have seen some people justifying it, going, you know, well, you know, the Palestinians didn't have any other options, so what were they supposed to do? It's just like, well, firstly, they haven't done that. That's Hamas, okay, who are funded by Iran, and Joe Biden just donated or gifted a significant amount of money, several billions, to Iran recently, in return for some prisoners that they were holding. So it's kind of easy to kind of chase the money trail and go, well, maybe Hamas has actually been funded by the deep state as a black ops in order to initiate World War III. And we're going to talk about all of that. We're going to look at all the stuff, and we're going to build a picture and ask this question. So yeah, I might actually put this video on my Odyssey and then leave a link to it on my YouTube. So I'm not sure where you'll be watching this, because I don't know what words they're going to be censoring. What is it going to say? What is it going to say? Yeah, okay, so I think it's better that we, yeah, a lot of the rumors of atrocities that were circulating, many of them have been retracted now, or have been revealed to be unsubstantiated, and that's extremely damaging, extremely dangerous, and should be absolutely condemned that people are spreading rumors on atrocities that have been unsubstantiated, because these are the excuses that are being used by the Israeli Defense Force to commit genocide against the Gazans, which is currently unfolding. They've been bombing civilian targets in Gaza. Okay, so I think it will be better. The reason why I'm saying, I keep on coming back to this point, that I do a reaction video is because I will actually be able to back up everything that I'm saying with a reference, with a source that y'all can look deeper into. I can give you accounts to follow so that you can actually go and look things up for yourself. If I'm talking about videos, y'all can look at those videos yourself, okay? Because, like, just an example, okay? The people were talking about, you know, the Hamas had gang raped and killed a young German girl. They murdered her, and then they strung up her naked body on the truck as a trophy and were parading it through the streets shouting Allahu Akbar. And I've seen the video, and you know, I was seeing people commenting this, and I was just like, whoa, that sounds super fucked up, that's super intense. So I was just like, okay, I really don't want to see that. That sounds like really like a fucking snuff movie. And you know, I'm not saying that people should go and watch these videos. Like, you know, I think it's actually quite fucked up that our society has become like this, where we're actually now posting videos of people's final moments and stuff like that is basically like snuff movies. But several mainstream outlets did share the video, and I ended up coming across some screenshots of it. So then I ended up looking, and those comments that I was seeing from people were a massive over-exaggeration and a game of Chinese whispers. Again, I'm not condoning the actions of Hamas in taking this young girl hostage, but she was not murdered and gang raped, okay? She may have been raped, but that claim is currently unsubstantiated and is currently a rumor. We don't know that happened to her. They say that she was stripped naked and paraded through the streets. That's also not true. She's on the back of the truck. Obviously, it's horrific. She looks like she's either passed out or being held down, and with her face down, legs at a really strange angle, probably passed out. But she's not naked. She's not wearing many clothes. She's wearing like a bikini and shorts. But the outfit looks kind of similar to what she was wearing at the festival. There was a video of her dancing at the festival, wearing a bikini and like a small skirt or shorts or something like that. So it's possible that was just the outfit that she was taken hostage in. Okay, I've been to, you know, festivals before, and it's not uncommon that we'll walk around in hot pants and bikinis. Okay, so there's no evidence that she was stripped naked. She was not murdered. The latest reports are that her mother has received communication either from her or has received reports that she's alive and being treated in a Gaza hospital. Obviously, we pray for her safety. We pray that she's not been harmed. We pray for the release of all the hostages. Okay, so Hamas has basically taken several Israelis and I think other foreigners as well hostage, and are saying that they will not release them. And for every civilian target that the IDF bombs, if they bomb like a family home, or if they bomb a school, or if they bomb a hospital, if they bomb any civilian targets in Gaza and harm innocent civilians in Palestine, they will kill one hostage. So that's what they've said. And in the words of one of the, I think they interviewed, there was a I don't have all the links, okay? Like, I will show you what I have, but I saw, I think it was a Channel 4 report. I'll actually post the link if I can find it in the description box below, so y'all can look through everything. In the words of one of the parents of one of the young people who was taken hostage, they actually said, we get it, like, I get it. I'm not saying I get it, I'm not Israeli, I'm not Palestinian, so I'm not going to speak on that, whether I get it or not, like, you know, but I will say that the Palestinians have been basically, like, the Gaza Strip is an open air prison. Many human rights groups have said that it's an open air prison, and that the Palestinians have basically been under occupation and have endured ethnic cleansing for generations, okay, since the 1940s, since 1948, okay. We're going to talk a little bit about the history if you don't already know. Like, I haven't spoken too much about this on my channel before because I just assumed that everybody knows the history, okay. We were taught about it in school, we were taught about it in a very balanced way, that didn't, you know, take sides. Not that I think that there are two sides, because firstly, it's not a conflict or a war. People keep on calling it a conflict and a war. Saying that it's a war is like saying that the Chinese are at war with the Uyghur Muslims, okay? Or that there's a conflict between the Uyghur Muslims and China, okay? It's not a conflict, it's not a war. If it were, like, a war requires both sides to have, like, their own army. The Palestinians do not have an army. Hamas is not an army. Hamas is a terror. It's been classified as a terrorist organization. Or you can maybe say that they're a militia. They've been called a militant group, but they were actually created by Israel to oust Yasser Arafat and the PLO, who the Palestinian Liberation Organization, okay, which were the previous terrorist group that spoke for the Palestinians, okay. Neither of these groups have really helped the Palestinians in any type of way. I think that the Palestinians need more than a resistance movement within their own ranks and from their own communities. They need the international community to just really speak up for them, and to say that Israel has to end the occupation, the illegal occupation of their lands, okay? Even according to Israeli law, the occupation of the Palestinian, the settlements on Palestinian land are illegal. And the last year has actually seen a lot of violence against Palestinians. Like, thousands of Palestinians have been displaced over the last year, due to settler violence, just random vigilante Israeli settlers with AK-47s going around Palestinian homes with guns and just intimidating people, and essentially just pushing them out of their homes, setting fire to buildings, setting fire to their olive groves, setting up tents, over passageways that they use to access different parts of their land. And I'm going to show you, like, sources and references for all of this, of what I'm saying. Okay, so let's start with, so I've been sharing a lot of stories on my Instagram, just like I did during the fucking pandemic. And what I've actually done this time, and what I'm going to continue to do in the future, is also posted them in my Telegram, okay? And I'm going to continue to do that, because what happens with it, you know, you post stuff on your stories and then it's there for 24 hours, and if people don't see it, you know, because people are busy, they don't always have time to look at everything, and it's a lot to kind of take in, and not everybody wants to just consume, you know, really horrible, traumatic stuff. You know, you got to be centered, you got to be, like, you know, emotionally ready to look at that kind of thing, and I understand if people don't want to look at it. But yeah, I've posted it on my Telegram, so y'all can look at it in your own time, okay? So the first thing that I posted, and definitely you guys, after you've watched this transmission from me, go and watch this transmission. This is from Aleo, Emily's husband, so Emily's my mentor. So he's basically given his run-on, and he did this a few days ago, so obviously the situation has changed, but he's not talking about the immediate situation, he's talking about the background, okay, because he's very well researched on not just some of the geopolitical and the history of the area, but he's more researched on, like, he's read some of the texts, he's read the Torah, he's read the Talmud, he's read the Zohar, and he's done a lot of research on the secret societies and their links with Kabbalah, which is Jewish mysticism, and what they're actually teaching within those ranks, and how that relates to the Q timeline, the white hat takeover, which is going to be like the false light great awakening that's currently unfolding. And we're seeing a lot of like right-wing pundits who've been pushing this kind of Christian narrative recently are now actually showing that allegiance with Israel. So this is all basically as a way to kind of manufacture biblical prophecy and build the third temple in Israel for the coming of the false Messiah, okay, as he puts it. So like with all things that I share, just because I'm sharing it, especially if it's long form content, I'm not sharing it because I necessarily agree with everything that the person says in the video. I'm sharing it because it has missing context that y'all need to look into and make up your own minds and do your own research, okay? So have a look at that, okay? Because he's researched in areas that I'm not and that I can't speak on. So there's a link to that in my Telegram. I'll put the Telegram link below so y'all can just see all of these links for yourself. Okay, the next one is it's an interview with Norman Finkelstein, who is, I think he's a Jew from, I think, the US. He's Jewish, and he has been involved with the Palestinian, the Free Palestine movement for many years. And he talks in this interview about how he actually ended up giving up on the whole thing because he just felt like the situation was hopeless, which is obviously unfortunate. That's I'm not saying that I necessarily agree with that. I think that there's always I don't think peace is ever hopeless. I don't think that humanity waking up and like coming together is ever hopeless. It may take time, it may take generations, it may not happen in our lifetime, but we can sow the seeds for that now. But I can understand how, if he's deeply involved with it and constantly seeing the attacks that are happening and all the resentment that's building on either side, again, not like I'm saying that there's two sides, I can understand why he kind of gave up. And he talks about how his parents were both in concentration camps, and how he feels like he felt guilty about giving up on the people of Gaza because they're essentially living in a concentration camp, and he felt like, oh my God, like that's like me giving up on my parents. Like, what if somebody had given up on my parents? What if they hadn't liberated my parents? Somebody should liberate these people. So I think it's fine if he wants to pass the baton to other people to kind of take over. That's fine. He's older now. I'm not going to play any clips from this necessarily. Just go have a watch of it yourself. But I don't agree with what he's saying here, because he's basically, it's like he's saying it's a 20-minute long video, so I'm not going to like play the whole thing. But he was like, the Palestinians had no other options. I don't think that we need to be perpetuating this narrative that what Hamas did, the Palestinians had no other options, because Hamas is not Palestine is not Hamas. They do share a video within this interview talking about how Israel created Hamas, so that you can watch that, but I will share that in short form later on in the video. I don't really agree with what Hamas did. I don't think it was justifiable, but I'm not a Palestinian, and I do agree that the Palestinians have no options. They haven't been given any options. So with like Ben Shapiro going, oh well, Hamas does represent Palestine because they voted for them. Firstly, they voted for them in 2006, which is like almost 20 years ago. I don't know if they've had any elections since then. Like, Israel allowed them to have two, it looks like two. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. This Wikipedia article seems to say that they had 1996 parliamentary elections and 2006 parliamentary elections. Have they had other elections since then? I mean, they had some local elections. Okay, they've had some local elections. But yeah, like they're not really given, they don't have their own land, like they've been pushed out of their own country, they don't have any right to self-determination, like they don't even have like running water or food half the time. Israel will cut that off, as they currently cut it off right now. They cut off their electricity. So they're under Israeli occupation, basically. So, you know, it's not like saying that Hamas and Palestine are the same. It's just, it's kind of insane. So I'll post a link to that. Go and watch that video in full after this, okay? It's 20 minutes, it's not that long. But yeah, he gives his perspective and his experience, you know, working on, obviously campaigning for this issue, like very deeply. Okay, so the next one is from Sovereign Bra. Sovereign Bra. So this is Chase from the Whatever podcast. Again, I don't agree with everything that he says, but he goes, I've kept an eye on this Israel situation for the past few days. Here's what I've learned, and here are my blunt and honest thoughts. Israel chose to ignore intelligence from Egyptian officials about a major attack coming from Hamas. I think I have some actual like headlines showing this, which I can share later on. Multiple former IDF soldiers and Israeli intelligence personnel have come forward online and said there's a 0% chance Israel will... Okay, I've just looked up and noticed that it stopped recording, so we're going to start from the first slide. Multiple former IDF soldiers and Israeli intelligence personnel have come forward online and said there's a 0% chance Israel was unaware of this attack beforehand or couldn't have prevented it. We just watched unsophisticated terrorists on hang gliders soar into one of the most heavily defended and surveyed countries on the planet. Within 48 hours of the attack, we're now suddenly seeing enormous support for an American war with Iran and the genocide of the Palestinian people. I'm witnessing American pastors and formerly level-headed influencers in our world completely lose their minds and call for genocide. It's unsurprising but insane to watch. If the events of the past 3 years have taught me anything, it's that when people get whipped into an emotional frenzy, critical thinking completely goes out the window. People become highly suggestible and will rush to extremely dangerous conclusions without thinking about the consequences. I think this is what we're all witnessing with this situation in Israel. I'm reminded of Pearl Harbor and 9/11. In both scenarios, the American government received intelligence in advance of the attacks but chose not to prevent the attacks. Why? The American government was willing to sacrifice the lives of American citizens in order to advance its geopolitical goals. Pearl Harbor gave the justification to enter World War II. 9/11 gave justification to invade the Middle East and drastically expand the American military-industrial complex and our surveillance apparatus. They were brutal and extremely traumatic events for the American public to witness. The emotional trauma caused people to get whipped up into an emotional frenzy. By the way, you know, America has like the blood of like over 1 million Iraqis on its hands for the war on terror. And you know, I'm not going to talk about this too much right now, but I do feel like these situations are connected. The blood of our enemies. America wanted one thing in response to these attacks: the blood of our enemies. I see the same psyop playing out now. People are whipped into a frenzied bloodlust. And I will share evidence of this as well. In their frenzied bloodlust, people are overlooking some seriously important facts here, notably the fact that none of this adds up. Innocent civilians are being threatened with genocide, and escalated violence in the Middle East and a war with Iran both risk fucking the rest of the planet. Oh, it's just stars, sorry, it doesn't mean fucking. And a war with Iran both risk the rest of the planet getting dragged into World War III. By the way, the last I checked before I jumped on, the body count of innocent Palestinians who've been killed in Gaza in the last few days by the Israeli Defense Forces is around 1,500 and counting. Okay, so that's already surpassed the Israeli death count. What happened in Israel this weekend was obviously gut-wrenching and awful to witness, but I do not trust Israel's so-called intelligence failure, nor do I trust the snakes in Washington calling for a war with Iran. And I sure as hell no longer trust any of the emotionally frenzied influencers calling for explicit genocide of innocent civilians. This was a defining moment in history, similar to Pearl Harbor, 9/11, COVID, the beginning of the Ukraine war, etc., and a lot of people just got played hard. People responded by going full mask off, exposing themselves as reckless and incapable of exercising sound judgment in moments of chaos and heightened emotion. And we're now at the brink of World War III because of it. This is all worth noting. There's a high likelihood that there will be more chaos throughout the rest of this decade. There will be more psychological operations. There will be more moments in time in which cooler heads ought to prevail, but people will get whipped into an emotional frenzy instead. Keep your wits about you and be cautious in whom you allow yourself to be influenced by. This is also another reason why I don't respond to things that are happening, that, you know, whatever is the trending topic at the moment. Y'all will see, I will usually wait a couple of days, sometimes even a week, to respond to it. Okay, because I don't like to have emotional knee-jerk reactions to things, because they're irresponsible and they result in things like this, you know, the death of innocent civilians. It's very easy to go, oh, well, I'm an influencer, so I should jump on and say the right thing and and report what I'm hearing and the rumors. Take some fucking responsibility and stop being a fucking idiot, okay? Have a measured response, okay? I understand the irony of me calling people fucking idiots and then telling them to have a measured response, but do, okay, please, okay? Because right now, with what's happening with the awakening of humanity and everything, all the evil being exposed and everything coming to the surface, there's going to be some big feelings, okay? We're gonna have to be able to hold each other through this whilst not getting into like bloodthirsty conflicts and, you know, propagating more division and hatred and separation. Okay, we've got to move through this together with grace. Okay, so recognize that governments and intelligence agencies spend enormous resources waging psychological operations on social media non-stop when stuff like this goes down. Remember that when chaos is at its peak, history shows there is almost always a hidden agenda being played out, and that hidden agenda is always designed to prey on our base emotions to facilitate a desired end result. Pray for world peace tonight. Thanks. And then he posted this meme, okay, which I think sums it up really easily. Understand, this is one of the points that I remember from my notes. The deep state will always fund all conflicts. Not that I think that this is necessarily a conflict, it's more, like I said before, and I'll keep saying it, it's a, what's the word, it's an occupation and ethnic cleansing. But they fund it on both sides, okay? So they're funding the IDF and they're funding terrorist groups within the occupied territories. Okay, so I'm happy that was the first Instagram post that was shared. Yeah, so let's talk about some celebrity responses. This is from Gigi Hadid. Obviously, Gigi Hadid, if you don't already know, is half Palestinian. And both her and her sister Bella Hadid have spoken up for Palestine in the past, obviously, because they're half Palestinian, so they would. And that's great. I respect them for doing that, because they're obviously very successful models within the industry, and obviously they will have a lot of powerful people that are going to have a problem with them speaking up for Palestine. So, you know, I massively respect them for speaking up. Okay, so Gigi has said, my thoughts are with all those affected by this unjustifiable tragedy, and every day that innocent lives are taken by this conflict, too many of which are children. I have deep empathy and heartbreak for the Palestinian struggle and life under occupation. It's a responsibility I hold daily. I also feel a responsibility to my Jewish friends to make it clear, as I have before, while I have hopes and dreams for Palestinians, none of them include the harm of a Jewish person. The terrorizing of innocent people is not in alignment with and does not do any good for the Free Palestine movement. Okay, I'll second that. The idea that it does has fueled a painful decades-long cycle of back and forth retaliation with no innocent civilian Palestinian or Israeli deserves to be a casualty of, and helps perpetuate the false idea that being pro-Palestine equals anti-Semitic. If you are hurting, as I share my condolences today with my loved ones, both Palestinian and Jewish, I'm sending you my love and strength, whoever and wherever you are. There are a lot of complex, personal and valid feelings, but every human deserves basic rights, treatment and security, no matter their nationality, religion, ethnicity or where they were born. I know my words will never be enough or heal the deep wounds of so many, but I pray for the safety of innocent lives always. So I love this response from her, like massive props to Gigi Hadid. I don't follow Bella Hadid, so I don't know what she's had to say. I did see that in terms of like really bad responses from celebrities, Justin Bieber, he tweeted "Pray for Palestine" and then posted a picture of the wreckage in Gaza, and then somebody commented, "Hey, this is a picture of Gaza, like, are you not going to pray for Palestine?" And then he removed the picture, and then reposted "Pray for Israel," I think with another picture. And then what's her name? Who's that one? Jamie Lee Curtis. She shared a picture. I'll see if I can find the original Instagram post to add here. I didn't share it, but she posted a picture of Palestinian children like scared, running around because they were being bombed by the IDF. And she was like, bombs raining, rockets raining from above, hashtag pray for Israel. And then people were like, oh, these are actually Palestinian children in Gaza that are being bombed by the IDF. That's what that picture is that you've just posted. And she removed it and didn't send any prayers for Palestine, just reposted it probably with another picture. I'll see if I can find that post and post it here. If I can't, it's on one of the accounts that I'm sharing here, so I'm sure you all can find it. Yeah, so this is the picture of Gaza. Somebody just said if Putin did this to Ukraine, the destruction would be plastered on every mainstream media outlet 24/7. I have seen, as a counterpoint to that, I have seen that the images from Gaza being plastered all over. Well, the mainstream media. With my algorithm on YouTube, they have been showing those scenes on like Channel 4 and stuff like that. So I don't want to make out like there's a media blackout on what the IDF are doing to Gaza. I do feel like the mainstream media, I don't feel like is biased on this issue. I feel like they're generally quite balanced. They get it wrong sometimes, obviously, and show instances of bias, but overall I do feel like they generally... I'll take that back a little bit, okay? Because we wouldn't even be talking about this if Israelis hadn't been hurt, okay? Because there are, the IDF wages so much violence against Palestinians that never makes the news, okay? So I saw somebody commenting saying, oh, this was like a Jewish holiday and they attacked on a Jewish holiday. If Israel had done that to Palestinians, it would be like, all over the news. And I'm like, the IDF does that all the time to Palestinians. They're always bombing them on Ramadan. They're always waiting until they're in their mosques and stuff and then start the attack. And I see it coming up on my feed because I'm friends with several Palestinian activists, pro-Palestinian activists. I'm also friends with several Israelis. So my feed is a mix of Palestinian flags and Israeli flags right now. I try not to just delete people even if I don't agree with them, because I think it's important to look at what different people who have different opinions are saying. Otherwise you're just going to be in an echo chamber and you're not going to get to the truth. So I prefer keeping people unless they're actually, if they were posting like kill all Jews or kill all Arabs, then I would definitely delete them. But like if they're just saying pray for Israel, I'm like, okay, like I'm gonna pray for Palestine, I'm gonna pray for the safety of Israelis, but I'm not gonna pray for the state of Israel. But I'll still keep them on my feed. But I regularly see stuff on my feed about how the IDF are bombing Palestinians during Ramadan and it doesn't even make the news. It might make like some, pro-Palestine, outlets who follow the conflict and report on every little thing, but it won't like make national news or anything like that. So and the reason why is it's more than just bias. It's because it's so common. It's not news. It's just a regular day in Gaza or a regular day in the West Bank. Okay, so this is the kind of violence that the Palestinians are just used to. So it's not reported on because it's just normal. And I'm not. Okay, so this one's interesting. So so I'm not going to pretend to be like neutral on the situation, and I don't think that like anybody who's saying that they're neutral on the situation or they're not going to take a side, it's just like there's two sides here, okay? There's good and there's evil, okay? And I'm not saying that like one group is evil and the other side is completely good. Hamas, what they've done is evil, and what the IDF does to Palestinians all the time, and the whole occupation and the apartheid and the ethnic cleansing of Palestinians is evil. So if you don't call that out and you're neutral, then you're actually siding with evil, okay? You're siding with the oppressor if you're going to be neutral. So that's my views on neutrality. Okay, so this one is really interesting. Okay, so this is a video of, here I'll show you. It's a bit loud, but so this is a view. This is where are they? I'm not sure where this is, but it's not in Israel. It's basically Hasidic Jews burning the Israeli flag. And I wanted to talk about this because I remember back in the day when I was involved in 9/11 truth activism around like 2007, 2008. That's when I first started learning about the Israeli. Obviously, we learned about it in school, but where I really started learning about the situation in Palestine and what the Palestinians were being subjected to, and kind of got involved in the activism and would like hear about what's happening, which is why I tend to know more about it than the average person. Not that I'm an expert on it by any means, but every time there was an attack on Gaza or the West Bank or something was kicking off, our like activist group that were mainly campaigning for an investigation into the events of 9/11, because obviously that story is really dodgy and like the official story is not fucking true. We would go down to the Israeli embassy and there would be like a protest, sometimes big protest, sometimes small protest, but we would always see Hasidic Jews. And the first time I was there, I got a little bit scared. I was like, oh, are they here like protesting against us? Like they were in amongst the crowd and stuff. They weren't like on another side. And I thought maybe they were like unhappy that we were there and protesting like for Israel. And I was a bit like, oh, whoa, what are they doing here? And I was told that they're anti-Zionist, like a lot of Hasidic Jews. I don't know if it's all of them or if it's just a sect. I'm not an expert on the Torah. Maybe some of y'all can share. Are anti-Zionist, okay, because they do not believe that their religion supports the creation of a homeland for the Jews. Maybe, like from what that post was saying, was they don't believe it's time for them to reclaim the Holy Land, and that has to be given by God. I don't know the intricacies of that, but I think it's certainly interesting that some of the strictest adherents of the Jewish religion are anti-Zionist, okay? So, that kind of puts like a new spin on the whole, like, oh, Israel, we're so progressive and we're so liberal and we're the most progressive nation in the Middle East and the most liberal. And it's just like, well, are you really following the religion then? Like, or is there like some other agenda behind why Israel exists? I just want to add, though, a lot of people think that this is like a religious thing, that it's like Jews against Muslims. Like Palestinians were all religions, okay? Before Palestine was given, or rather taken, and given to the Jews as a Jewish homeland called Israel in 1948, there were Palestinian Jews, there were Palestinian Christians and Palestinian Muslims, okay? They are majority Muslim, especially the ones in the occupied territories, in the West Bank, in the Gaza Strip, but there were also Palestinian Jews as well, okay? So let's not kind of, obviously a lot of Muslim countries, Muslim majority countries and other Arab nations are very sympathetic to the Palestinian cause because of the similar religion, but it's not as simple as they're Muslims and they're Jews. So okay, this next one's quite upsetting. So I will warn you. This is basically a group of Jewish protesters, Jewish, Israeli. I'm not sure if they're Israeli, but they all got Israeli flags. But Jewish or pro-Israel supporters outside Pfizer in the US, giving their opinions, and they are they're extremely what's the word? It's disturbing. So I will just warn you of that. Oh my God. It's gone. Wow. It's been taken down. I'm going to see. I know somebody else reposted it, so I'm going to see if I can find it. I should have fucking screen recorded it. Okay. And I'm going to fucking screen record this in case this gets taken down.
Fuck Palestine! Palestine to my dick!
What do you think the response should be from Netanyahu and the military to Gaza?
Kill all Palestinians! All of them! Not one left from the river to the sea. Palestine will be deceased! And Israel need to do like this. You see? Now Gaza. Like this. Gaza need to do like this. Or like this, but all this Jewish. Two options.
We gotta wipe them off the fucking map. I'm talking about every fucking flatten them like a parking lot.
Yeah,
flatten them out once and for all.
There's nothing else you can do. They proved to us that there's nothing else you can do. We tried, and
we tried everything. It doesn't work. We have to wipe them flat off the fucking map, like a fucking parking lot.
I'm not stopping till all Arabs are wiped out.
I think now it's the time that we need to erase Gaza.
Yeah, I mean, that they actually left out one that I wanted y'all to see. It was a kind of middle-aged woman, 40, 50 or something, and she was literally like, flatten Gaza. If I come across it again, I'm gonna screen record it and share it. But yeah, I know that's extremely disturbing to see, but those are like US-based Jews or US-based Israelis. Obviously, I'm not saying that they're all like that, and I'm gonna show y'all the opposite as well. A lot of Jews praying for peace for everyone, and saying that they don't support the occupation, but I think y'all needed to see that there are people who fully support the genocide of the Palestinian people who are walking amongst us. Yeah, like that. I think that was probably like one of the, seeing that was like the reason why I was like crying my eyes out when I was riding my motorcycle yesterday, and like, yeah, that was really hard to watch. But yeah, like for those of you who watched that with me, I like really like commend you. And yeah, like I actually saw something similar on a Joe Rogan podcast. He had someone, what was her name? I'm not sure. I'll see if I can find the podcast. There were actually two podcasts where he had the guy from what's that? Pink Floyd. And then another woman, I think maybe she's a Russia Today presenter, somebody. I'll see if I can find those podcasts and post them in the description so that you can see a little bit of the mindset that a lot of Israelis have been brainwashed with, and how they feel about Palestinian people, and why they allow it, like why they allow their government to behave like that. You know, I'm sure that they have been very brainwashed, and you know, a lot of, and I'm not saying that again, I'm not saying it's justified. It's not justified, but there have probably been some kind of like atrocities or something, you know, over the years. Obviously, we know that, again, I'm not saying it's both sides, but that, you know, there have been terrorist groups emerging from Palestine that have done horrible things. Like, y'all maybe don't know about the history of the Palestinian Liberation Organization, Yasser Arafat, how they took several Israeli athletes hostage at the, was it Berlin or Munich Olympic Games in the 60s or the 70s or something, and just killed them. So, you know, that might explain where some of the hatred is coming from, but I don't think it's justified at all. Like, I think it's fucking evil and fucked up, and that's why I shared that, because I think people need to see that. Okay, so this is a post from Danny Rampling. Armstrong Economics, researching the past to predict the future. Israel and Hamas and World War III. Okay, so this is what he says. Hamas's attack was deliberately orchestrated to create an open war. I say that because of the taking of hostages. If you don't know who Danny Rampling is, by the way, he's a former Radio 1 DJ. So, you know, I met him at Golden Frequencies, which is, I've spoken about Golden Frequencies before, but he's pretty awake. He's been speaking out about, you know, the whole everything that's unfolding since the pandemic. Hamas's attack was deliberately orchestrated to create an open war. I say that because of the taking of hostages, knowing that this will simply escalate the crisis. The ongoing hostage situation presents a unique crisis, for included within those hostages are also Americans. Taking about 150 living hostages presents a crisis that can engulf the entire region. This is not simply a retaliation against Hamas. They've said for every attack they will kill one hostage. The question also brings into play Hezbollah. Will they open up a northern front to the war? If Israeli troops enter Gaza, Hezbollah's response to a massive Israeli ground operation would most likely pull them in as well. Defense Minister Yoav Gallant said, "No power, no food, no gas. We are fighting human animals and we act accordingly." So that basically tells you how they feel about Palestinians. Defense officials have ordered a complete siege of Gaza in response to this attack, which was the deadliest day in Israeli history. Israel has bombarded the densely populated enclave in retaliation, killing at least 920 people. So this was posted yesterday. It's now at least 1,400 from the last time I checked. It's probably more by now. On Tuesday, the Israel Defense Forces announced that the border with Gaza was secured and that it was preparing for an offensive. There is no doubt that this was planned. Syria's President Bashar al-Assad visited China for the first time in nearly 20 years. Beijing seeks to deepen its influence in the Middle East. Interestingly, according to Chinese media, Syrian President Bashar al-Assad and his wife left their 3 children in China when they returned to Syria after attending the Asian Games in Hangzhou, China. I mean, they could have known something was about to kick off. They could have just been like, "Hey, y'all stay." I don't know. In addition, Egyptian intelligence officials said that Jerusalem had ignored repeated warnings that the Gaza-based terror group was planning something big. That for me is like the biggest sign that this was probably a black op. They claim to have directly warned the Prime Minister. Egypt has often served as a mediator between Israel and Hamas. This only further validates that this was allowed to occur, just like 9/11. Armstrong Economics text continued in the comments section below, so if y'all want to read that in full, I'm not going to. The link is in my Telegram, so just have a look at the links in my Telegram. Okay, so this one is pretty. This one sums up my feelings actually, and I'm not afraid to admit that, and it's just fucking obvious to me.